Easy arpeggios to spice up your solos. These are foundation solos, these ones, guys. Page 64, lesson 58. I'm going to show you these two shapes. Now, these two shapes come from the A shape. Quickly, before we get into this, I just need to state this. I say this all the time. The order of the tonality of the chords in the major key. Go major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. That is for the major key. So look, it goes like this. It goes major. I'm going to use a capital M there for a major sound. I'm going to use lowercase, just like we do with Roman numerals, guys. Yes, so major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. Remember that this first one, is our key chord, okay? That's linear. And a lot of people don't realize the minor's the same thing. I think it's interesting just to look at this groupings. So you can see there's two minors together and there's two majors together. That's super useful for when you're picking out songs and you want to know what key the song is. If you can find the two major chords that are a step apart or two minor chords that are a step apart, that's a big clue as to what key you're in. What people don't realize is that the minor is really just an inversion of the major. So really what we do is we start on the minor for the minor key, then we get the diminished chord, then what happens is we get a major, then we get the two minors, then we get the major major, and we have the chords in the minor key. It's the same chords. Minor starts from the 6 steps. If you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there, that's the relative minor. So that is the same as that. Yeah? And then what you could even do is you could even think that if you look at the 3 in the minor, that is the start of the major. So that's the relative major. So you've got the relative minor and you've got the relative major. So they're basically two sides of the same coin. And look, there's that grouping of two minors and grouping of two majors that live together like that. And this is a sort of a linear expression, isn't it? Well, you know how much I like circles. I think that this is a better way of looking at it because there's so much we can tie into this as well. Although this lesson says key, C major, and you can see it's got C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, and B diminished. If you look at that at face value, you might think to yourself, well, that's just in a major key. But it isn't. Because if you think about it in the inversion sense, then you'll see that actually the minor is in there. But it's just a little bit hidden because you have to reorganize everything. But let me show you a way to do that with a circle. This is part of something that I call the Diatonic tonality cycle. And I've done that in a lesson a while ago. It's another way of just visualizing your chords. This is your major key. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you come here, then you can see this is your minor key. So you get your minor key just there. So there's these two spots that you can see there. Really nice and easy way to see that. And that isn't linear. I do love circles. I really love circles. Now you can be really clever and you could think to yourself, well, hang on, that's going to be chord 1, that's going to be chord 2, chord 3, chord 4, chord 5, chord 6, chord 7 in the major. But if you look at it in the minor, this is chord 1, this is chord 2 diminished, this is chord 3, which is major, which is chord 4, which is minor, chord 5, which is minor, chord flat 6, which is major, chord flat 7, which is major as well. So this little circle thing is really going to help you. Mode circle, Andrew's put there. So what you could do, and this is going to be the same for the major or the minor key, you associate the mode with it. This is a tangent. So we know that the major key, the chord 1, yeah, that's going to be Ionian or the major. This is going to be Dorian. This would be Phrygian. This would be Lydian. This would be Mixolydian. This one would be the mode with all the vowels, Aeolian. And then this would be Locrian. Why would you ever want to play it? This, I'm just trying to give a bit more scope in this, guys, so that you can actually get a bit more mileage out of these shapes, okay? I'm just going to quickly, I'll play through the shapes in the book that I showed you. Basically, we're going to use the A shape. The bog standard A major shape. Now, the thing to know about this is because the chords that we've looked at so far, tonality-wise, yeah, they've been very, very simple, haven't they? Major, minor, and then we've got a single diminished, wobbly bob there. But what we're going to do is we're just going to use these here. the A major shape. Now, ordinarily, you can play it. There's lots of ways, different ways to play it. But that's my preferred way of playing the A major shape. Now, this is the fifth, the root, and the third. If we flatten the third, we get the minor. Okay? Now, if I took this shape here, and I'll use my third finger, that's an A. Chords move like notes. If I move it up a whole step, it becomes a B. If I move it up a half step, it becomes a C. And I'm only playing the D, G, and B string there. So now if I played this as a bar chord, you can see that that's a C bar chord. Okay? Now if I change it into the minor, you can see I get the C minor bar chord. And the shapes that I actually want are part of those 5-string chords. Because look, when I play that C chord there, I want just those 3 notes there. There. Now I know these become really easy for me to remember now, and what I can do is I can think to myself, well, that's my major shape. Now if I move this up a whole step, because the beauty of this is the whole major scale is going to live on this G string here. So if I go from here, this is Do, Re, Mi, Fa. So I can move up like this. So that's the root, third, fifth. We've got the root, third, fifth there, okay? So if I move up a whole step, I get chord 2. Okay, there's chord 2. Moving up again a whole step, I get chord 3. Moving up a half step, I get chord 4. Moving up a step, I get chord 5. Moving up a whole step, I get chord 6. And then I've got to be careful on this one. Watch this one. You get the old diminished here. If you think about that minor, it goes root, flat third, fifth. If I flat the 5, then that gives me my diminished shape there. Good little shape to learn. Okay, so there, and then I'm up at the dusty end of the neck, but if you notice how my dots are arranged 3, 5, 7, 9, then all I need to do is think 3, 5, 7, 9, even though I know it's 15, 17, 19, and 21, and I go, and I'm back to where I started, but an octave higher. So this is chord 1, chord 2, chord 3, chord 4, chord 5, chord 6, chord 7, chord 1. And I can keep going until I... So I can keep on running up and down those until I run out of neck. And the idea is, yes, you can integrate these guys, so you can play them. And in the original lesson, I said because this is C major, I could play this with my pentatonics, but then add this little idea here. These little triad patterns are very, very simple. The main reason I want you to look at these is I want you to think of these as being foundation blocks. These are foundation blocks. Like I say, how do you eat an elephant? You don't consume it all in one go. So we're just playing the triads up the neck, but we want to be able to flesh them out and we want to make them sound more interesting. And this is why this lesson's fantastic, if I say so myself, because if you can do this, yeah, and you can see this shape, is this an easy shape to see and play? It's not hard, is it? Okay, but this makes triads more interesting because we're not going to stick with triads, guys. We're going to use this as a foundation to build on something else. I'll go through each of these chords. So we've got the root, the third, and the fifth, and that's crucial to know. You need to understand root, third, fifth, but that's nice and easy. Those are the shapes that I was just playing there, guys. I want to make this more interesting, this shape here. And the way I do that is to turn a triad. I'm going to use a triad as my foundation, but I'm just going to add the 7th. Now, I'm thinking of this as being chord 1 in the major. And we're sticking to this idea of it being C here. So now you can see I've just added that flat 7 there. And let me just show you what that looks like on guitar. If I go like this, I go root, 3rd, 5th. Now I've got this note here. So I know exactly where my 7th lives, because my chord 1, I know it's a major 7 chord. That when I take a triad and add an extra note on, yes, and then what happens is you get 7th chords. Okay, if you've seen the 7th chord lesson, then you'll realize that this is what's going on. But then what we do, we can add that 7th on an octave higher as well, which is pretty darn cool. Oh, my diagram's a bit cooked with that one. I'm going to have to add some bits on here. So what we could do now is you can see just using that little triad shape as a foundation. So that's the foundation. And we're going to dress it up by adding one note, which is this 7th. Yeah? So now we have a bigger pattern, but we can reliably point to it. So there's chord 1, chord 2, chord 3. So there's the chord 1. You've got to remember those formulas for your chords. A good chef will know recipes in the head. They know how to make a roux sauce. They know how to make everything. This is the thing, and that's what your scale formulas and your chord formulas are all about. They're your recipes, guys. And once you know those, then they can help you. So there you go, look. And there's the shape. That's just for that chord. In fact, here's a C major chord. You can hear how that works on top of that. Now, I think there's a bit missing with this. We need to add another part to this, and I like to add another note here and have 3 notes here on the thin E string. It just gives me a little bit more colour, but now I have a complete sort of idea that I can use for that one chord. This is just a C major chord, and I can tart it up. Now this could be with a regular C major chord underneath it. Yeah? And that 6th sounds lovely. Okay, so that's what we've got. That's the little pattern. But we're not done. We've built this here, but now what I want to do is we want to build in this little shape. And this is a great little shape, and I think all guitarists need to learn this little shape here. It ties in this triad. I'm going to get a marker out. Everything on guitar is about shapes. Look at this. Root, 3rd, and the 5th there. And what happens is we get this little triangle there. And now I can add that to the pattern as well. So we started off with the... And now what we need to do now is we've segmented it. We've broken it down into chunks. If we look at the components, break it down into 4. So watch this, guys. We've got the triad. We've got where the 7th lives. And then we have that extra note on the thin E string, and then we get the triad here. You know, I could play each note, sit on it and see what mood it evokes. There's the 3rd, 5th is transparent, 6th provides a bit of tension. Yeah, so you could call that, you could kind of, yeah, call it a C major 13. But what you can see is you get this. You get this little pattern there that enables you to explore that chord there. Now that's just the first chord here, guys. I've got the 7th, the root, and then I jump in over here to the 3rd. So I'm not including the 6th. Now let me just show you something. Although there is this pattern here, which is a useful, you know, you should learn that little shape there. It's really important for arpeggios and little flashy bits. It's just a nice little fragment to learn. But what you can do is you can make this a little bit longer. Instead of having the 3rd there, you can have the 3rd up here 2 steps above. And I'll just write this separately on here. And then what you'll see is you get a different triangle, but it's just a little bit wider. These are the 7th arpeggios, and these just add a bit more colour, but we're adding some extra colour in there. Now, here's the next piece of the puzzle, and this is an important thing, I think, because this brings style into it. So I'm just going to do these as open circles here, because these notes that I've put in there, it doesn't mean you just play ba 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 ba, you know, one after the other sequentially. The way I look at these is I look at these as approach notes. Yes, so these are half-step approach notes. That means that this note here could go down to that one, it can go up to this one here can go down to that one, and that can go up to this one. And wherever you have a step and you can fit what I call a not note, I call them not notes, yeah, because they're the notes you're not meant to play. The not notes are where the tension works. I'll play the C major chord again. Okay, so remember on that thin E string, what we had is we've got the 5th, 6th, and we've got the 7th here. Okay, there. But what we're going to do is the not notes, which are the notes that aren't part of the chord or any of this idea. What we do is we use them as approach notes to slide into the notes. So now you get something with a little bit more style. Let me do it here again. If you've got any little triad like this, what you can do is you can use these half-step approach notes from below. Yeah, so there's the C major triad there. And that works really, really well. So it's a similar idea, really. So what? I'm on the 5th to the 6th. So it can be a nice way to reorganize your fingers, yeah, but it will give you that jazziness. These not notes are not part of the key. If you listen to those not notes. But listen, when I do that, you don't want to land on them. You approach notes within this pattern here, guys. Because like I say, we've got the triad. Let's break it down. It works in steps. Let's break it down. Like the elephant. Got to eat it in chunks. We've got the triad. We've got the 7th that we can add there. Then what we can do, we can add that extra scale tone, scale degree there, add it to the chord as well. And then build it out with the root 3rd, 5th in that manner with this pattern. Yeah. And then we can, or we can play it like this, where we go up 2 tones to get to the 3rd, which can be a nice way of doing that. See that? You can even add the 2nd in there if you wanted to. But what I like about this particularly, there's a great guitarist called Tim Miller, and he did a thing called 2-1-2s, and I like that idea. And basically the idea is you play 2 notes on one string, and then you play 1 note on the next string, and then you play 2 notes on the next string. So you go 2, 1, Now you can put a 3 in it, 2, 1, 3. Yeah. We can put that in there. And that's a 2, 1, 2. And then we've got a 2 there. It's quite very tempting to play that middle note there. So that takes care of this shape here. Right, okay, but the thing is, we don't want to just have it as a one-trick pony thing just in that shape, do we now, guys? We want to be able to play it in the key. In fact, we want to be able to scoot around that whole major-minor thing. And when we can do that, that means we can adapt this and we can play it in both major and minor key. So now, we're going to look at chord 2. We're going to think of this as chord 2 in the major, despite knowing that it's actually chord 4 in the minor as well. But we're going to look at this. Now, this is going to be a flat 7 here. This is a minor 7 chord. Chord 2, when you add the 7th, it becomes a minor 7th. And in fact, just worth noting, guys, I've said this before in other lessons. Chords 2, chord 3, and chord 6, they're all minor 7 chords when you add a 7th to the triad. We're going to jump that over here. This is a lovely, lovely, lovely shape. So there's the triad. The triad's great on its own. There's the triad. So you can hear that there. That's my foundation. That's my home base. That's if anything goes wrong and I get stuck, root, flat 3rd, 5th. I know that my minor triad is underneath there. But look, there's my flat 7 just there. Yeah. And that's with that note on an octave higher. I love these because the groupings are just really convenient. Listen to the grouping of this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is D minor. So remember, in the key we've got chord 1, which is major, chord 2, which is minor. And all we're doing is we're taking the triad as a foundation, and then when we take the triad and we use that tertian movement and add the 7th, what happens is we get a flat 7. There, so that's the flat 7. There's the pattern. Those are the 2 extra notes. Look, this is a G-shaped octave. Flat 7 there, flat 7 there. I'm going to put in that extra note, well, to get a 6th here, because this is chord 2. This is related to the Dorian mode. And I'm also going to put the not note in there. So the not note is this note here. You don't have to use the not note if you don't want to. If you don't like that slidey thing. So now I can add a bit more style to this. Because of that major 6th, it's going to sound very Dorian. So let's go there. Especially if I land on that note. And I'm sliding in using part of the chord 1 as well. Okay. But now what we need with this is that little triad pattern. And let me put the triad pattern in. Go in there, there's the root, and then we get this flat 3rd just here, and we get the 5th just here. This forms another little triangle shape. You know I love me triangles. Triangles are ace, circles are ace. You know, this is what you've got to do. So I've added this pattern, and I'm adding root, flat 3rd, 5th. Now I can add it. Okay. The beautiful thing about this is we get a 2 here. 1, 2. 1, 2. We can get that 3 in there just to turn things around. Okay. So it all ties in there. Take your time with it. And what you do is you just practice these little bits. You just do. Just take your time with it. Practice that bit. Practice it in chunks. But understand that it comes from there. And the idea with this is if you know where chord 2 is, and this is how useful it is. Say it was here. I know this is chord 2 because there's my chord 1 and I'm in the key here of E flat. Yeah. I know that so that lives there. Oh, actually, and I forgot, we have an extra not note in there as well. So we have an extra not note. We can fill that in there. We can slide up and down to the flat 7 or the root. So we've got all this extra stuff we can do there. But hopefully that makes sense. Look, if I take that there, this is out of the key of C. It doesn't matter where it is. I'm just basically targeting the triad. Add the 7th, which gives me that shape there, and then I add the 6th if it's chord 2. Yeah, okay. So I can put that in there, and it just goes anywhere you want to. There's a not note in the middle there. Don't want to land on it. Because if I land on it, I've got to resolve it. Okay? That's augmented. So we get augmented in there. But you start to see where all these little things come in. Now, remember, we were in C before. We've got that. That's for chord 1. There's the not notes. You can play them if you want as well. So we've got that 1 chord, 2 chord, 3 chord. Now the thing is, everything tallies up the same for the 3 chord. Because it's a 3 chord, it's a minor chord, it's got a flat 7. Let's just duplicate that over here. Now you've got to think about this and what you can do, because it's the 3 chord. Just refer to the mode. The mode will tell you what notes you're going to need in here. The 3 chord, what kind of 6 does it have? The Phrygian scale, it has a flat 6. So it means I've got to put it here. There, look. So the difference between chord 2 and chord 3 is just that flat 6 there. But I've still got this not note that I can put in there, which means I can slide here and I can slide here as well. Okay? Then I've got to put my little triangle triad on here. So that puts me up here now. Let's listen to chord 3 here. Is that loud enough? You see? You get a different sound. Can you hear that okay? Is that better? Triad. Okay, there's the triad. There's the 7ths. Okay. There's the scale note for the chord. And here is that little triangular extension. I'm just thinking of it as like an extension to the shape, really. And we're still getting us 2-1-2 patterns as well. That lives there. And there's the chord underneath it. I did there is I just joined them up together. I played chord 1, chord 2, chord 3. Yeah, so this is all in the high voice strings as well. Right, now, the thing that you should know off by heart, when it comes to chord 4 and chord 1 have the same makeup, yes? So, chord 4 is a major 7. This is a minor 7, this is a minor 7, this is a major 7. So this is a major 7. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the major 7 just there. Right, this is another box that I need to sort out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that 7th an octave higher there. So hopefully you can see that step 1 is the triad. Find out where the triad is. Then what we do is we add the 7th. Then what we do is looking at that E string. We're just adding that because it's the nicest place because it's really, really vocal. Now, remember what we did before. So we've got as not notes, like I say. Not notes go this way, they go that way, they go this way, and they go that way. And then what happens is we get our little triad shape there. There's a little triad shape there to make this into a much bigger sound. Yeah, so now I'm playing it up in a different position. We're going to have the 4 chord. So yeah, so there's the triangle. So we've got the triangle bit at the top there, and that's always on the A and the D string. So we're just moving up those. Yeah. And I could change that from being that shape, triangle, to being a bit stretchier, but if you've got short stumpy sausages like me, you might find that one easier. But some notes are worth the stretch. Yep, that puts that on there. You can hear it's the same quality of the chord. Listen to the personality, that major 7. Same chord. Now, here's where it gets interesting. I've got this shape here. So I think to myself, that's a not note and that's a not note. So I'm thinking of them as half step approach notes. So that's a note that I want to target. Or that's a note I want to target. So I'm sliding down to it. Some of them I might bend up to it. As long as I control the bend. But if I play those together, they sound awful. And then what you can do is look, you can see there's so many ways to take this. If I just focused on those groups of 3s on the E string, they help me. So I can use them. So that's on that note there, that chord. Now, let's crack on because there's still 3 chords to go at, guys. Right, so here we've got a different one. Now, I love this one. This is chord 5. Ordinary, it's got a major triad underneath it, but it's going to give us a dominant 7th chord. The main thing to notice with chord 5 and the dominant is it's not like chord 1 and chord 4 having a major 7. It's got a flat 7. So if I go from a root note here, I can discover my flat 7 lives just there. So my flat 7 lives just there. Look at this. I can just play that over there on that octave beautifully. Lovely little shape. I adore this shape. We've got the triad. We've got the 7th. Let's put in the 6th just here, which you can think of as being the 13th. There's the not note. Okay. We can put in the root, the 3rd, and the 5th there and get that lower sounding structure, that triangular structure, that shape there. This is all completely movable, guys. Remember what I said. We can do this in different keys. Let me just put chord 5 up here. So here's chord 5. So here's the triad. Sounds a bit boring. Let me zoom in. There's the triad. Yeah, but as long as you know that that's the foundation, that's the value, you know that this is going to lead to something else. And there's the 7th just there, the flat 7. And then I double it up. Adding that in there, and I'm barring over that, those 2 notes there. You could use 2 fingers there, really. The scale note we've got is this. So we've got the root, 3rd, 5th, flat 7 there. We've got a 6th here, and the not note lives just here. So if I listen to that, I'll play that there. You can hear it sounds off. But if I bend up to it, let me put that. Bend it up. As long as I don't hold it too long. Yeah. There's that little pattern just sitting at the top. You could practice those. So just practicing those little patterns is a good idea as well. Okay, so now I can play that chord there. So someone's playing a 9th chord. Anywhere there's a 9th chord, guys, look. I know where it is. I know where that. There. These shapes follow the chords around. Yeah. Yeah, I can even put a not note in there. Let me crack on with this one. So this is chord 6. Now, chord 6, it's the same setup, like I say, with this, but we've got to think about it that we borrow from the scale formula for chord 6 if we want to think about it modally. Remember, when we thought about chord 6, we knew it was Aeolian, and Aeolian has a flat 6. So that's what we think about when we're looking at this with it, but we know that it's going to be a minor 7 chord. We've got the triad, the minor triad there. Let's put the flat 7 in. Let's put the flat 7 just here. I'm going to put the flat 6 in, and look, the same pattern. We get exactly the same pattern there, look, as chord 3. exactly the same thing. And then we've got the not note there that we can bang in. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the little triad here, root, third, root, flat third, fifth. Come on, brain. There's that triangular shape. Oh, look, and don't forget, I can have this little not note there that'll go between that flat 7 and the root note as well. So we've gone chord 1, chord 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're getting up into the dusty end of the neck. There's the triad. I'll use those little now put the flat 7 in. And then that flat 6. There's the not note, and I bent it up to a note that we need. Let me just hit that again. So 2-1-2 into a 2-1-2. Take your time with it. Nope. So that takes us to that one. Now we're going to do Old Wobbly Bob. We've got to do Old Wobbly Bob. Chord 7. So we've got flat 7 here. I like this one because of the symmetry. Yes, this chord, when it's half diminished, it's a minor 7 flat 5. And in fact, just to show that it's half diminished, I'll cut it in half there. If I take this flat 7 here and I bung it up an octave there, and then what I can do is I'm just going to pop over here, put my root note in again. Because this is a minor 7 essentially, but with a flattened 5th. When I put my flat 3rd here, my 5th would ordinarily go here, but I'm going to put this flat 5 in here. And it gives me this jaunty little shape. And I love this little shape because it really pops out to me, does this. We get a little diamond in the middle of this one, but we've got this diamond here. But look, we have another little triangle here. We have a triangle with a diamond. And then you could even think of that as being a triangle, could you? And then what we're going to do is we think about it with this note as well. The 5th would be here, and then we're going to get the flat 6 just here in the middle. So we get a group of 3 there, and we have 2 more not notes that live inside this pattern. Now, the thing is, this chord sounds but ugly on its own without context, but you can overlay this. Now, chord 7, this is a minor 7 flat 5. Hear the tension on that. That's a B minor 7 flat 5. Okay, I'm going to play it up here. I'll play it up here. So what I do is I'm going to go root, flat 3rd, and then to that flat 5. That's a really common pattern. Then I'm going to play out that little diamond shape. We've got the 2-1-2 thing again. And the not notes. Now if I play the 5 chord, you can hear it still works. So go from the 5. Back to 1. Yeah, so back to the 1 chord. Triad, 7th, fill note, not note, little triangle at the top. So there's so many bits that you can add to it. There's a lot to unpack in everything there. Revert to the original lesson in the book. Follow along with that to get those triads first. But then once you've got those triads, you can then associate them with the 7th chord. This is a lovely little framework. Guys, I would just say, if you've got a looper or you've got some way of recording one chord, you could just say to yourself, I'm just going to record a C major chord. It doesn't matter which chord it is, you just go D major. You just record that. You just go like that. Just record that. Alright, make sure it loops round, and then you can go, right, go with it with the triads. I've got the triads. And I'll put the major 7 in. I'm not even going to put the other one in yet on the octave. I'll just get used to this bit first. Oh, hang on, I added that extra note. There's the octave. You don't make little phrases up. Look at that. That's a little kooky thing that I'd probably work on. Just keeps your ear listening. Yeah, and that's just underneath that. And it works everywhere. And this is the secret, guys. So the chord comes along, and if you do the key-based playing, where you think to yourself, oh, it's in C major, and then suddenly it goes somewhere else where you don't know where it is, but you know what the chord is, and you think to yourself, is it major, minor, or is it dominant? What you can do is you go, oh, it's major, man. So it's like that pattern will fit, and you have something as a foundation. Oh, it's major, man. So it's like that pattern will fit, and you have something. You have something as a foundation to build upon. But start on one chord, then record 2 chords. 2 chords fairly close to each other. Maybe chord 1, chord 2. Then you might think to yourself, I'll be brave and I'll be bold, and I'll play chord 1 and chord 4. And you might say to yourself, I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll do chord 2 to chord 5. And then when you get to doing chord 2 to chord 5, that's when you're getting into the good stuff, because 2 5s come up all the time. And then you think to yourself, all right, well, I'll do 3 chords, and you do a 2 5 1. Then you've got something that you can really dig into. 2 5 1s are basically the language of music. They're kind of the common vocabulary in a lot of music. 2 5 1. If you put 6 in front of it, 6 2 5 1. You've got Ave Maria. You've got Islands in the Sun by Weezer. There's so many songs use the 6 2 5 1 chord progression, and that means that you can just play along with this and use this system, build it around those foundation triads, and you're golden.